everyone, and welcome back. This is Mindy Eggen, and in today's video I am going to be creating 3 cards for you using the new Frosty Kit from Tailored Expressions, and I'm also going to walk you through the contents of the kit. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, let's start out with how you would be receiving the kit. Now, a lot of Tailor's kits are coming in this zipper pouch bag. This is a really large bag, and I love these because I save them. I can put projects in them or any scraps that I have, and it has this sticker on the front that coordinates with whatever the theme is that month. You can peel that off if you want, but I think they're super cute, so I've been leaving mine. Next in the kit, you would be receiving the Frosty background cling. This is a red rubber stamp, and it's filled with these adorable snowman faces that has multiple uses, and I'll show you that in a little while. You're also going to receive 6 colored envelopes. Now there's 2 of each color. You would be getting Pea Pod, Cookie Monster, and Cherry Pop, which are all colors that coordinate with Tailored Expressions cardstock and inks. You also receive a Frosty stencil. Now this is mainly designed to work with that Frosty background, but it can be used individually as well. There is also the Frosty body die, the Frosty head die, and then the sentiment strip duo. So these work with the smaller stamp set that I'll show you in a minute, and that head works with the cling background. So this smaller stamp set is the body. You can see it has the snowman body on there, the carrot nose, some snowflakes, and some little different strips for the hat that you can stamp in different colors. There is also 6 custom envelope seals, and I think these are really super cute. These can go on the front of your envelopes, or even just to decorate any of your cards. You could use them there as well. So it does have some release paper on the back, and you would just remove that release paper to put on whatever your project or your envelope is. So you have 6 here, 2 in red, green, and the blue that match the colors in the pack. And then there's also the Winter Wishes stamp set. So it's a small clear stamp set with some sentiments that correlate with the kit as well. And then we have some bits and pieces snowflakes, and I wanted to just show you this quick. Now these are not a hard plastic. When I took them out of the package, I was really surprised. They kind of have a rubbery feel to them, so really nice to add to your projects and any of your winter cards you may create in the future. Now we can go ahead and get started on some stamping. For the stamping, I'm going to be using my black Hero Arts MISTI tool. This was a MISTI designed in collaboration with My Sweet Petunia. It has the black rulers on the side, and I just really love the color black, how it looks on my desk and in my videos. So you can use any stamping tool, but if you're using the MISTI and you're going to stamp this red rubber background, you're going to need to remove that foam insert. Since our stamp set already is on foam, that wouldn't leave you a good impression if you tried to stamp it with the foam in your MISTI. So I'm starting off by putting that background into my MISTI tool. And then I'm going to take a piece of sugar cube cardstock. This is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I put a little bit of adhesive on the back of that, lined up that cardstock, and then closed it upside down. And you can see now that my paper is in perfect placement in my MISTI tool. And then I'm going to ink up this background with Tailored Expressions Oreo Ink, which is a black ink. And I'm just inking that up really well, and I'm going to stamp it onto this white cardstock. Now when I get this, it's not going to have the most crisp impression. There's a lot of hats in there, and those hats are solid images. So that's why I think it's best to always try and use a stamping tool when you can. So I can go back in, ink that up, and stamp that down again, and that'll give me a really nice black impression. Now I do this multiple times off screen. I like to have a few extra on hand. This time I am using Lime Zest cardstock, and I'm going to stamp this in Lime Zest ink. Now I really like the look of Tone on Tone, and I thought I'd change it up a little bit with using Lime Zest. It's also a color that I'm going to be using for the hats on the snowman. So my projects all kind of tie together with the colors. So I do stamp that one twice as well. Since I already have my MISTI out, I'm going to do some more stamping, which is using the body of the snowman. And I'm going to do this by placing my sugar cube cardstock towards the middle of my MISTI stamping tool, and I'm also placing the body in the middle of my cardstock. That way I'm able to just shift my cardstock and I can stamp this multiple times. I love having multiples on hand, so if I just want to keep working on cards, I have some already ready. I don't have to dig my tools back out. And if I don't use it, then actually what I've been doing is putting any extras back into that zipper pouch. So it's a great place to store any extras that you might create. So it's always best, I think, to just go ahead and stamp a bunch of things. That way they're ready for you. I'm going to start working on decorating the front of one of my panels. So for this, I'm going to use these little bits and pieces on here. I'm going to start with stamping the carrot nose. And for this, I think it's a lot easier to do with an acrylic block. Now, one thing I do want to make sure is that you condition your stamp sets really well ahead of time. That'll give you the most clean impression. So I'm just going ahead and stamping all of the noses on, and I'm using the candy corn ink, so a nice bright orange. And all you need to do is turn your block to flip the nose to go the other way, and you'll get the full panel stamped. Also on this stamp set are two little circles that are meant to be the cheeks. Now you can leave these off or add them on. I did a couple panels with them on, and I do have one that I left them off. I'm using Strawberry Milkshake, and I actually meant to use Pink Champagne, which is a lighter pink. Strawberry Milkshake was just the ink pad that was sitting on top, and I grabbed it, but it still looks really cute. It was just a brighter pink than I actually had wanted to do. So once again, just using an acrylic block and stamping those cute little rosy cheeks on our snowman. And then we can work on doing the bands of the top hat. Now this you can do in any variety of colors if you wanted to go more traditional. I decided to go with some non-traditional colors, and I'm only using 3 out of the 4 band designs. The first one I stamped in Strawberry Milkshake. Then I'm going through and doing Cookie Monster, and the last one I'll do in Lime Zest. So you can see I kind of spread the colors out throughout that cardstock. So here are the couple panels that I had done, some with the rosy cheeks and some left off. I really love this color combination. Now I'm going to show you how the stencil works with this background. It's designed to go in between the snowmen. So what I'll do is I'm going to just take it out of the package, and I'm going to take some purple tape and I'm going to put it behind my cardstock. It's going to help hold my stencil in place. You could spray the stencil with some Pixie Spray, which is a low-tack adhesive, but I personally didn't feel the need to spray that entire background. I think just kind of holding it in place with some low-tack tape would be well enough. So I'm taking those dots on the stencil and I'm making sure that they're lined in between all of the snowmen heads, and I'll bring this up close and show you what that looks like. It's very easy to line up. So you can see none of those snowflakes or circles are on top of the heads. It's going to make it look like one complete background. Then I'm going to take some Cookie Monster ink and a blending brush, and I'm going to just quickly add some color to that background. Now you can go as light as or as dark as you want, completely up to you. I'm just lightly brushing on the color. I tap off on the side on my mat to try and come in a little softer. I did come in a little heavy in some areas, but it all worked out in the end. So then I'm just going to carefully peel this stencil up, and there's our adorable 1-layer background. Really quick and easy to do, and especially if you're looking at mass producing Christmas cards, this is such a great way to do it. Now I'm going to show you it one more time. This is using that Lime Zest background that I created, and I'm going to do the same thing I did before, attaching that low-tack tape behind the cardstock and then coming in with the Lime Zest ink. So this is going to be a complete tone-on-tone background, and you could do this with red, blues, any color that you want to make your cards. We can move on to making the sentiments for our cards. Now for one of my panels, which is going to be the white background that I had previously done, I want 3 sentiments on there. So I'm going to die cut this sentiment strip duo from Lime Zest, Cookie Monster, and Strawberry Milkshake cardstock. So these are all colors that are going to match together. I'm just going to put that onto the cardstock and run that through my Mini Blossoms die cutting machine. This is something really handy I like to have on my desk for these smaller elements. And then I'm just going to put these off on the side. So they're die cut. I actually left my dies attached. I didn't cut them apart. It was just easier to handle for me. So I'm going to die cut all of those, and I'm going to work with the strip that kind of has more of the raggedy edge. There's a raggedy edge and kind of more of a scalloped edge. So I'm going to put one in there. I'm loading this into my MISTI tool, and this is actually going to be a template for me. I'm picking the longest sentiment, and I'm lining that up in between the edges of that die. And there's actually like a few little perforated dots on the cardstock ends as well. And the sentiments just line up perfectly in the center there. So I'm prepping that with my anti-static powder tool. I'm going to ink up the sentiment with some VersaMark ink. So this is a nice sticky ink, great for embossing. And then I'm going to sprinkle on the Tailored Expressions white embossing powder. Once I sprinkle that on and tap off the excess, I'll heat this with my Wagner heat tool. That's going to melt the embossing powder. And notice I am using my tweezers to hold this. It is very skinny. There's not a lot of room there for fingers. And the tweezers is great because I'm not going to burn my fingers. So that's my first one done. Now I wanted different lengths. There are some smaller ones here, so I'm going to customize my banner. So taking the Strawberry Milkshake one, I'm lining that sentiment up to the furthest edge on the left, right before those perforated dots. Now this is going to look a little funny at first, but I'll show you how I'm going to fix that and run that back through. So once again, showing you the process of just prepping that with that anti-static powder tool. That's going to help reduce any static that's on my cardstock, any fingerprints, and just really help kind of minimize where the embossing powder doesn't. I don't want it to stick everywhere on the cardstock. I want the embossing powder to just stick to my embossing ink. Now once again, after I tap off that excess, I'll heat that with my heat tool until it's melted. Set that off on the side, and then I'm going to do the one more here. This is using the Lime Zest cardstock, and once again taking that small sentiment, lining it up to the very left edge right before those perforated lines, and I'll be heat setting this as well. Once I have everything heat set, now I can start customizing the length of these. And to do that, I'm going to be taking that die again. I'm going to take one of the sentiment strips. This is the shortest one. I'm going to line that back up onto that die, and I have the edge of it line up where I want it to cut off. It's a lot easier to watch in the video than for me to explain this, but I'm lining that edge up where I want the sentiment to cut off, and I'm kind of pulling it back, peeking at it, making sure that that's kind of lined up in there and I have enough room. And then I'm going to hold it in place with some purple tape. That way it's not going to move around. And I found this a lot easier to do in my mini die cutting machine. So I'm cutting it, I actually flipped my sandwich, so it's cutting up, and that was just easier to make sure that didn't shift around at all. So I'll run that through the machine, and once I remove this, you can see now I customize the length of my sentiment, and it fits perfectly in there. So I'm going to do that same thing with the pink cardstock. I'm lining that back up into that die, having some hang off of the edge, just kind of peeking to make sure my sentiment, I'm not cutting off my sentiment. I want to make sure I'm leaving room in there, holding it in place with that purple tape, and then running that through my die cut machine. Now you could put purple tape on the other end as well, but I didn't feel the need to. I thought it held in place really well while I ran that through. So now I have 3 different sizes of sentiments, which is exactly what I wanted for the front of my card. I'm just taking that front panel, I trimmed it down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches to leave a nice border showing my Cookie Monster cardstock panel, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I just attached that down with my Scotch tape runner. And then I'm starting with lining up my sentiments, and I'm using the longest one first. I added some foam squares behind that, and I can't find my T-square ruler, so I'm using my MISTI corner ruler to help me straighten out that sentiment and line that up in the middle. Then I added foam squares to the pink and also the green sentiment strip as well to add a little dimension to it. And I'm adding just above and below my Cookie Monster strip. So this is the first card I completed, very quick and simple to do, and I think these snowmen are super adorable. So that is my first card finished. For my second card, we're going to work with the panel where I stamped the snowman bodies. And I'm still using my mini die cutting machine, so I thought this was best to trim each of these out. I just wanted to make sure I'm leaving some room so my die has room on there to die cut that out. I'm holding those in place with purple tape and running that through that mini die cutting machine. And I'll do that for each one of these. This is something really great if you want to get the kids involved. They can help you die cut, or if you just grab some and sit and you want to watch a movie, this is a great activity to do this. I'm also going to repeat these same steps with one of the panels that I had stamped. So I'm trimming out a couple rows of the snowman heads. And I'm going to do that same thing where I'm going to line up the die. Now there is also an extra die that you can purchase that's available at Tailored Expressions website. So if you wanted to cut a couple of them out at one time, you could. And this die matches all of the heads on the panels. So I'm just going to continue on cutting out just a few of them to have a variety. So these are all going to be used on the background I created that was tone on tone with the Lime Zest cardstock and ink. And I'm just going to have 3 snowmen be on the front of my card. I'm keeping these really simple and using a lot of the products that are in the kit without having to worry about adding anything extra. So I'm lining my 3 snowmen up on here. I'm trying to figure out which ones are going to be in the back and which is going to be in the front. And the ones in the back, I'm just going to go ahead and add a tape runner to the back of them. I do want to pop the heads up just to give them a little bit of dimension. If you have some wobblers, those would be really fun to add to their heads too. But I'm just sticking with some fun foam squares and popping those heads up. Now the one that's furthest in the front, or closest in the front, I am going to add some foam to that one to kind of pop it up a little bit, give this a little bit more dimension, and then the foam to the back of the head. Off screen, while I was stamping sentiment, I did go ahead and stamp a sentiment on white cardstock. So I just added foam squares to the back of that and added that right under my little family of snowmen. So that is our second card that went super quick, really cute and easy to create. And now we can work on the third card. So on this third one, I did want to add a little bit to this. So I took a B0000 Copic marker and added a few flicks of that color to the left hand side of the body. I want my snowman to be kind of looking up to the right is how it's going to go on my card. So I'm adding just a little bit of shadow area to the body and the head. Now I have these great masking stencils from Tailored Expressions, and this one is the rectangle one. There's 2 sizes. This is the largest one, and on this there are some lines. That's kind of guides to line up your cardstock. So I'm going to line up that furthest outline with my cardstock. You can see I already added purple tape behind there. So I'm lining up those edged lines on that stencil with my cardstock underneath, and that's going to give me this beautiful masked off edge. Then I will come in with some Cookie Monster ink and the blending brush, starting at one end and working my way up. Now this whole section will actually be this color, but I want it to be a gradual fade. So I'm starting off darker towards or on one end, and I'm going to gradually get lighter as I go towards the top. Now, the more ink you add, obviously, the darker it's going to be. I don't want to add a lot of ink to my brush as I'm going towards the top because I want that to be kind of just a really soft fade off. Once I'm happy with the blend, I am going to bring in an outside product from the kit. This is going to be the Winter's Beauty stencil. I just adore this. I just had to create it with this cute little snowman. You can use any stencil in your collection, but I really loved this stencil. I did spray it with some Pixie Spray, so it has a light tack on it to adhere to my panel without ripping it. And then I did kind of help secure it in place with some purple tape on top. Now I'm ink blending with Cookie Monster. Then I come in with a blue raspberry to darken that up and a little bit of jelly donut, which is just a striking combination. Off screen, I'm going to take it and I'm going to spray on this Sparkle Shimmer Spritz. This is going to add some beautiful shimmer to it. And I made sure to leave that stencil in place while I'm doing it. Then I can carefully remove that Winter's Beauty stencil and then that masking stencil. And it has so much beautiful sparkle. I love adding a spray through my stencils. Just be careful not to overspray because then you'll have wet drops that seep under the stencil. So to quickly finish off this card, I'm just going to stamp a sentiment on here. So I'm using my mini MISTI tool and a MISTI corner to help make sure that that sentiment is straight. And just to be on the safe side, I am stamping it with a VersaFine ink. So once I have that stamped down, then I can go ahead and just add my other snowman here to the bottom. I attach the body with some Scotch tape runner, and then once again adding foam squares to the head for a little bit of dimension. So there we have it, 3 quick and adorable cards created from the Frosty Kit from Tailored Expressions, with many more possibilities available. I will have all of the supplies listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. I hope these have inspired you to get started on your Christmas cards so they're ready for the holiday season. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I will see you again real soon.